the past and the future all exist now. And we can never be in the past. We can never be in the future. We're only in this moment now. Now, the experience of time is real, but time is an illusion.
Yeah.
It all exists here and now. So it's an interesting thing, because as we change now, I believe we also change the parts of our past we connect to, and we change the potential futures we could experience. Welcome back to another episode on the Aaron Doughty podcast. I have my best friend Victor Oddo here.
Hey, everybody.
Cool. And we are in Costa Rica right now. We just finished 3 days of plant medicine ceremonies. And what we wanted to do is to share with you the top insights that we both had. This has been an extraordinary journey. It's been one of the most transformative trips of my entire life in many different ways. And what we want to do is kind of share with you the journey of coming here, the top insights we've had, things that we've learned, and kind of go over all of that. And yeah, so thank you for coming on, bro.
You're welcome. Good to be here, man.
Yeah, so so it was an interesting journey to even make this thing happen. You know.
Yeah, we ran into a lot of resistance, and I know that a lot of times we're sort of guided by spirit, by our intuition to do something, and then in that moment it feels very synchronistic and effortless and like flowy.
Yeah.
And then when it comes time to doing that thing, because it's like a stretch for the self-image, a stretch for the old identity, there can be a lot of resistance sort of getting into this new level. And that was the epitome of that is kind of what we experienced initially.
Yeah, because initially what happened is we had it planned, and we had these two people, shaman plant medicine teachers coming. And just to clarify as well, the plant medicine we're talking about is ayahuasca and wachuma. Wachuma is also called San Pedro. It's a cactus that's normally done during the daytime. It's considered the grandfather spirit, whereas Mother Ayahuasca is the mother. And we had some people that were going to be facilitating that you guys have worked with before and very used to. And we had over 22, 23 people signed up for this trip in November. And we were excited for it. But then what happened is everything happened with what happened at the beginning of the year. And once that happened, it kind of threw some things into the mix, because we didn't know what the travel restrictions were, if there were any. Because of that, there were some logistics that fell apart with the people we were going to use, and they weren't able to come anymore. And we had 23 people that had already paid to go and were excited to be a part of this trip of doing 3 days of plant medicine with people that we trusted and we were excited about. So it was interesting, because once that fell through, right, with the shaman we were going to use.
With like less than a month to spare, mind you.
So we had all these people ready, and they were disappointed. And then like 2 days after, I decided this idea, because there was this one amazing shaman, magical guy that I met in Costa Rica, because we normally go to this place in Costa Rica that we've been to 3 times now. And there's one shaman that's there that does a very special Thursday night ceremony that I felt so connected to. So reached out to him, and then he was able to connect us with other people that were just as badass as he was, that just as like sacred with the medicine, been doing the work for 20 plus years. And 2 days after we canceled, we said it's still on. And we jumped in, and we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know, there was a hurricane that came through here like a week ago. We're like checking the news, and it's like hurricane went through Honduras, and it's like went through, and we're like, oh, are we even going to be able to travel? And not just that, but then there's all these states starting to close down.
Yeah.
But something about it just felt right.
It did. That's what was confusing to us initially when the previous people we were going to work with canceled, because we were like, man, me and Aaron would always talk about this, and we'd say like, how does this feel? How does November feel to you? And every time we'd like think about it, and we had this strong sense, like even with all that's going on, it's going to take place. So when this monkey wrench was thrown into the mix, we were like, oh my goodness.
It was confusing. Yeah.
But then we reflected back, and we're like, we both felt like it's still going to happen. So that gave us the motivation to start using our resources and thinking outside the box. And then as we did that, a lot of the other folks that came with us, it happened very synchronistically, and it kind of all fell into place, even though there were those times where it seemed like this is not looking good.
Yeah. And it pulled through, basically. Is what we just wanted to kind of share you the context before we get into more of the insights that we had and everything, the context to like kind of what happened, and even getting there to, we had like you want to talk a little bit about what happened on the way there?
Yeah. Sure. So it all kind of worked out as we had mentioned. We flew in and we met Aaron at the airport, and then we got a rental car. But then getting to the actual retreat center in itself was like a dark night of the soul for all of us. It was this
no kidding.
Very wild car ride without GPS through these, I would barely even call them roads, just full of potholes and hills and mud. And we were running late and we didn't know where we were. It was getting dark. And we finally get to where we think we're so close to the retreat center, and we run into a river. The road we were on literally turned into a river, and we had to backtrack and go all the way around, almost an hour and a half out of the way.
Yep.
And then we got to this point where we were almost in the clear, and there was a herd of cattle in the road, and some dude on a bike saying, "Can't go that way either."
Wow,
and then it was like dark out, and we were like, we were all like going through moments of like being at peace where the other ones were freaking out. We all had our turn, like, you're like, oh my God. But it finally worked out. But it finally worked out.
We felt bad because we had 20 something people there, and a lot of people were already there, and then everyone took a shuttle. They took a shuttle from the from the airport to the place. And we said no to the shuttle because we needed a rental car anyways, because we weren't staying on property. We wanted everyone to be able to have a room there. And we ended up being kind of far away, a little bit further away than we thought. We're at this Airbnb now that we've been at for like the last week that we're recording this. And it's awesome, but it's a little bit further away. And we were showing up late. So there was this like anticipation and this impatience to get there. And I remember thinking that as we were trying to get there, and we came up to that one big river, and we were like 90% there, it's a 2.5 hour drive. We were like 2 hours in, like 20 minutes left maybe, and then that river was there. And I remember when we were driving away from it, and we're like, okay, we have to turn around, and then we have to go this big loop going around. It's another like hour or two, and it ended up being a 5 hour drive that should have been 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking like, this is very reminiscent of plant medicine, because and also you can almost find meaning in anything in your life. And I found that to be true for me. So I'm like, what is this showing me about me? Because I always have this like big impatience.
Yes.
I get like irritated if I'm driving with someone that drives slow and they're the one driving. I just rather drive. I always want to get somewhere quickly because I'm impatient. And then there was other dynamics, like we have these people waiting, we want to get there and not keep them waiting and stuff. We want to eat dinner. That's the other thing. We were super fucking hungry.
Yeah.
We were starving.
Me and Patty flew for almost 20 hours. We left the day before.
Yep.
And the last time I ate was like 2 or 3 in the afternoon the day before, and it was like 5, 6 o'clock, and we were like lost. We can't get there, and we were starving, getting hangry and irritable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it was just a very big like reflection back to us, because that's sometimes how plant medicine can be, where there's like you're trying to control things. You're trying to control and know exactly where you're going, and when things don't go according to plan, you start to get impatient. You start to feel resistance. But then eventually we started to surrender a little bit more as we just kind of accepted we were going to be late.
Yeah.
And that we were starving, but I think it was a journey in of itself even to get there. But once we got there, once we got settled in, we ate, we met everybody. Then we went back to the hotel, we slept, and then we were ready for the next day. And it was very powerful.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people give up on the road trip, so to speak, where like things start really going kind of wrong in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then like even I was thinking like, what's the problem? Maybe it's not meant to be. All these thoughts are going through my head. But there are many lessons that we don't have to get into that we all learned from that road trip.
Yeah.
And in the end, the retreat was just beyond magical, and it worked out, and everything had its place, like always in plant medicine and always in life.
Yeah. Yeah, this retreat was was one of the most like powerful experiences I've ever seen people go through.
Yeah.
There were like 22, 23 people there, and maybe everybody but one had like life transformational experiences. And the one person that didn't probably will over the next year. That happens sometimes when people sometimes, we get lessons about expectation and things like that. But everyone, like, it was incredible to see people's transformations, and then even my own, your own, you know. And why don't we talk a little bit about what we learned from the plant medicine?
Sure, yeah.
What was your big takeaways from like the first night?
From the first night, the first night was more of a, in a sense, a kind of a carryover from the day before, where the puzzle was not really in place still.
Yeah.
And even after the first night, I was still in wondering how it's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say one of my main takeaways, one of the things I experienced the first couple of nights of ayahuasca was sort of a completion and a resolve of many things I've been working through in the past 2 years. As Aaron knows, I won't go into specific details, but 2 years ago, during a plant medicine ceremony, this core wound within myself became revealed to me. And it was a very, very scary. It was very, very important to me. And I went for about 2 years trying to heal it, trying to figure it out, understand why that feeling, that fear, that energy keeps coming up. And there were so many times I thought I'd figured it out and this and that. But and there's so many times I wondered, like, why did that even happen to me? And I regretted even doing the plant medicine because I felt like now I just have this thing to deal with in a way. Yeah. But anyway, though, so the last couple nights, it was like a conclusion of that, where I was shown what it was, why it was there, and I finally, for the first time ever, felt this like dark energy within myself lift off of me. And it was like, it gave me such a trust and faith in the medicine and in life, because there were so many times I thought like I shouldn't have even taken plant medicine. It was a big mistake. But when it finally lifted for me, it was like it all came together. It was so beautiful. Yeah. I was kind of vague there. It's a very long story. That's why there's no need to get into the whole thing with that particular facet, right?
Yeah. Have you ever shared it before?
No, I can if you think it's okay.
Yeah, I think I feel like.
You think I should?
Yeah.
All right, guys. So yeah, that was either a pointless story or I
think the specifics
elaborate.
People would find interesting. Okay. I've known the story, but I think it's a really interesting dynamic to see you go through it. You know.
Okay, so 2 years ago, I was laying a couple beds away from Aaron on the fourth night of ayahuasca in Costa Rica, a couple years ago. And I had this magical experience where I had this thought come into my head. It was like an invitation to interact with my ET family. And I thought, oh my God, this is badass. And it was a very positive vibe. I said, yeah. And then all of a sudden I sensed myself, I didn't really see it, but I felt myself being lifted up into a ship. And I could interact with these beings. And they were saying, they said, Aaron's your twin flame. And I remember this. Yeah, and I said, that makes sense. You know, we're so close. We're not like lovers or anything, but we're close.
Yeah, but like a soul fam, you know?
Yeah, and they started telling me, you're connected to this and that star family, and you're going to be famous, and you're going to write a book, and you're going to be like make a big splash on the planet. And it was like candy for my ego, and I was like, yeah. I kind of like got swept away with the exhilaration of all these fond things being revealed to me about myself. And then I felt I had this intuition I have to purge, which is something I don't normally do on ayahuasca. Many people do, I rarely do. And I got up and I purged. When I purged, I heard the name in my mind, Maya. And it dawned on me. It like the way I experienced it was, you're going to have all this awesomeness, but you're going to lose a child. And it was so real. I felt so connected to my higher consciousness. It felt like a premonition, and I was just crushed. I literally I woke up Aaron and I told him about it, and it messed me up so bad because it felt so real. And I spent like the next 2 years trying to figure out, why did that happen? What was that? And for 2 years, I had this sense of impending doom, like I was given foresight to something that's going to happen. I did a lot of plant medicine. I did a lot of breath work, a lot of meditation, a lot of journaling. I was literally haunted by that for years, 2 years. Every night I go to bed with this anxiety, like, I got to figure this out. Yeah. And there was many times I thought I figured it out, but that whenever I would get quiet, that feeling of impending doom and fear would come back up, and I knew it was not gone. And anyway, this weekend showed me what that was. And what that was were many different things. It was a lot of times I carry a lot of guilt for kind of having a life where I'm sometimes away from the kids, and I have an extreme amount of guilt. This is going to get really out there, I guess. I also believe I had something like that happen in a past life.
Yeah.
Like, I think a recent past life.
Yeah.
And I sense there's a lot of trauma I didn't process in that life. So there's trauma there.
Yeah.
And there's also, I needed to be humbled and not need to be Mr. Big Shot. I was getting kind of carried away in my ego. So there was many different layers that profoundly were impacting my life, connected to that one experience.
Yeah.
And finally, this last couple of nights, all of it finally came into a connection where I could see me having that fear, even though it's not going to happen, it's not true. It led me to make big changes in my life. I stopped getting so involved in my ego. I've pulled back from my online presence.
Yeah.
I've become a much better father, more present, more appreciative. I'm learning to let go of the guilt. I'm doing things to heal the trauma, and I'm feeling like a new person, reborn. And I feel finally free of that thing, and I can now see the value of it. It was the perfect catalyst for me to make profound changes into my life that I don't think I would have had the motivation to do otherwise.
Yeah.
And at the very end of it all, I felt that fear finally lift for the first time.
Yeah.
And like the ayahuasca like kind of made an appearance right after that in this sort of like goofy, playful, innocent like way, kind of like, see? Like, this is what I was doing the whole time. I'm just helping you out, man. You got to trust me. I just love you. In this, like, it was such a pure love.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
That. Yeah. I know, I've seen Victor go through this process, and there were many other in between 2 years ago and now. There's been many plant medicine ceremonies that you've been on, and I've seen it continue to get kind of like brought up and then kind of be resolved a little bit and then kind of come back up again. And I could tell that it was just like, even just a babysitter picking them up from school or something like that. Like just, you never know. It's almost like you had to be control over everything. You know what I mean? And you even had somebody, I think, in your family as well, right? Like on your ancestrally, on your mom or your dad's side.
Lose a child. Yeah, my grandfather, my mom's side.
When they were 10 years old. And then Maya was like 9 becoming 10. And it was like this huge thing. And I remember you woke me up when we were in ceremony and I was sleeping. And he woke me up and he was like, this is going to happen. Like you're going to have to help me through this, And it was like, it was very emotional.
For all of us.
Yeah. I didn't know what to say, I could tell so strongly you were centered in that, and I just didn't, it wasn't like I could just say, no, man, it was very interesting, very emotional. But yeah, it was really cool to see, you lift from your energy, because I can tell it has lifted.
Yeah.
And it's like you're free now,
Yes. And real briefly, what I believe it was, honestly, it was in a sense foresight into a potential timeline if I don't change.
Yeah.
Like I believe karma will sometimes happen when we remain unaware.
Yeah.
But we're waking up now, and a lot of us are. I've talked to other people who have had similar insights, like negative synchronicity. Sometimes people have, but we're becoming aware of it in time to make the changes within ourselves and within our life, to where we don't need these painful karmic physical things to happen in our life to change and to grow. Where in the past, I think humanity was unconscious, but now we're waking up and we can sort of just change from within, and sort of live a smoother life without these painful things to wake us up.
Yeah, I agree. It's like it's shifting of timelines.
Yes.
And there's these probabilities that do exist, and that's why I always like to tell people, when you go, I like going to clairvoyant people or people that have insight or astrology and stuff, but some people get so bought into it. It's like, oh, somebody said this is going to happen, when there's many probabilities that exist. Maybe something has a lot of momentum to happen, the timeline you're currently on, but upon getting the information, you can change it.
Yes.
And you changed it. And if you didn't change it, it was showing you something that was a probability,
Exactly.
And and it's cool to see you move through that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I
and
feel
release that
feel
energy,
great,
'cause
feel free.
I could tell. Um,
What was your main takeaway? I talked a lot about myself there, so you can have a turn.
My main takeaway was actually it came after the retreat. So it was a realization that I had after the retreat, not after the retreat, after that night, the first night of Aya. My experience was we both went light. And one of the reasons we both went light is because last year we were around, we went to a place and there were, there were like 90 people there. It was a much bigger ceremony. And out of the 90 people, there were like 50 to 70 people that were there based on our recommendation. They knew of us. And there was some pretty nutty things that happened in that ceremony. Like I was in ceremony and there were people, the boundary wasn't set necessarily. So there were people coming up to us. There were people like trying to do Reiki for us. There was somebody that got literally on top of me while I was in the middle of ceremony and started like grinding on me. It was very interesting experience that was very kind of invasive and kind of not traumatizing, but in a way like it made me kind of put up a wall in a way because I'm like, oh, like I didn't feel safe necessarily, and this ceremony that it was like mentioned like, oh, it was mentioned that beforehand, like, hey, we're gonna all be in our own our own journey. So because sometimes the medicine can bring up subconscious things for people, and I think that's what happened with that chick that did that, that like back in the last year. But what happened this time is we went into it. We both went a little bit lighter, but we still got, we still had an experience. That was the first night or the second night that you had that experience?
Second night.
That was the second night. Okay, that makes sense. So for me, the first night though, after, I took a smaller dose, didn't feel it too much because I think I went so light. The second night though, I went deeper. And I had an amazing, it was like a vibrational experience of like unconditional love. And the night before though, after I left, I just had this realization when I was getting ready for bed after leaving, from the ceremony. What I realized is just this pattern that was coming up in my life. And it was this pattern where in my life, I have been in this big transition point in my life. Used to make daily videos on YouTube. I was known as the YouTube guy, always creating content. And I've realized now that what I want to do is I want to grow something that's a mission beyond my own identity. So I used to always think that I wanted to be a Tony Robbins. I idolized like what he did, and he was like the epitome of like taking what he's done to like the top level, right? So like that was the North Star for me. I was like, I want to be like Tony, and I always thought that, and I always that was my goal. But then I've had some realizations where I realized months ago that was my ego. My ego was like, I want to be like Tony Robbins, and it was like an ego thing where I think I wanted to feel significant, and I realized how much I was driven by significance. And in that realization, I started switching it from like, I'm not going to be the Tony Robbins. I want to create like a movement. I want to lead the movement, but I want to create like a system of connecting people all over the world, like kind of almost taking me out of the forefront, kind of like you did, where you like kind of like took back from YouTube in a way to kind of keep your ego in check.
Yes.
And I kind of have been doing the same thing these last like couple months, and I haven't been making as much content. I went from 6 videos a week to like 3 videos a week, but I haven't been putting all my heart into my YouTube videos, so I've been feeling kind of guilty about that. And the realization I had though was that I have this pattern of falling into other people's frame. Like I have, like the funny thing is, we'll talk about that in a minute, but I realized that even, for example, like in Sedona, I moved into a house with one of my best friends, with my friend Drew. And I realized that as cool as it is, I love him to death. I love him and his girlfriend, Rebecca. I realized that even that was like me falling into someone else's frame, because even though we were going to buy the house together, and there were certain things that happened with that, that's a whole story in of itself, but we bought this house together. We had to put it in someone's name, and we were going to work out like like an operating agreement to like wire it in. But like these blocks kept coming up where like the lawyers were just taking fucking forever. Like every month it's like they were taking longer and longer and longer. And after like 5 months, because it's been like months now, and we're like, okay, we got to figure out this thing. And then I just realized that it was kind of a sign. It was like showing me, and it was making me realize that like I've become a part of someone else's frame in a way. Because the challenge was that both Drew and I were both we're both so similar that in a house it's hard for one of us to give up control or dominance in a house because we take up so much space energetically, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the awareness of that. And I think what happened is I fell into that frame because maybe it was more comfortable, and I thought it was so cool because Drew's like super successful guy, super high vibe guy, one of my best friends, like I love him to death. So that it was like, oh, let's do this together, and it was like a mutual thing we both wanted to do. But I realized first off that was like me falling into someone else's frame rather than being independent and like getting my own house. And I realized that like I need my own space so that I can grow this mission and this movement that I want to do that requires a lot of my attention and focus. So that was a realization that I had about that. But in the same way, I realized that even with this retreat, when Victor reached out to me, when once, we see each other all the time, but he was like, let's do this. You had this idea of this doing the retreat. And I said yes to it. I was like, yes, let's do the retreat. We'll book it, and it'll be like in Costa Rica. There'll be 3 nights of plant medicine. It'll be awesome. And I said yes. And I thought that was super exciting and cool at the time. But what I realized from being here is, and there's other realizations I had on the last day that I'll get into later. But what I realized is that in a way, my passion, and I realized this from speaking because every day in the day we did a little speaking events. So Victor and I would speak, and we did like a life purpose workshop one day, or letting go ceremony, and we talked a little bit about purpose, and the next day we talked about something else. But I realized that when I'm speaking in front of like 20 people or even more, speaking one on many, that's what I enjoy. It channels through. It's so much fun. And doing the retreat, there's a lot of one-on-one interaction, which is cool. But I could just tell that for me, there's a different dynamic, a different way of going about this that I resonate with. And I realized once again, after the first night, that I, in a way, fell into you're in Patty's frame of like, let's do this together. But it's a distraction from me doing my own frame, from me like building my own speaking events, my own like this app that I'm creating right now for like, that'll be coming out soon, but like this IP system that I'm creating, like I need to put my energy into that. But because I've lacked that frame, I've been falling into other people's frame. And when you have a strong frame or a strong vision or mission, it's like you don't say yes to everything. And I've been saying yes to things like, yes, let's do this. Let's move in here. Let's do this retreat. And this retreat turned out to be amazing, by the way. So it's not like I regret it, but it made me realize that there's a different way in which I like to interact and teach, and that's one on many people, like bigger events that aren't like a lot of in between stuff and coaching and stuff, but more so one on many. And that was a huge epiphany for me. So I was like, I need to get on my own frame. I need to like build this mission. I need to build a bigger team. Like there's stuff I need to do. But it made me realize that my lack of frame was making me fall into other things. And once I realized that, it was such a powerful realization for me because I could see how in many different layers of my life I've been doing that. And then after that, there was during the Wachuma day, and even just from other people, I was originally thinking like, oh, I'm going to put this speaking thing to the side because I thought it was my ego. And I'm going to do this, like create this system and this like new website and this new, whole new mission movement thing. But it was a powerful insight when you and I were sitting out for Wachuma. And then Victor kind of mentioned, he's like, yeah, man, I think you're, we do this thing where we don't really give each other advice. We kind of ask questions to get the answers out. So, but he made, he's like, I'm going to make an exception to tell you, like, I think you're meant to be speaking, and it was a powerful, it really sunk in with me and it really resonated with me. And then I had 2 or 3 other people that were like, man, you were like they were just like commenting on the speaking from the little talks that we did, you know what I mean? But I could just tell and feel that was true. It's just that the way I speak isn't going to be like I'm going to be a Tony Robbins ego guy. I'm going to be like my ego is going to be flared and be like that. But I just do that in a way that resonates more. But yeah, thank you for that insight and just, everything.
Yeah, you're welcome. Me and Aaron can usually easily see each other's blocks and patterns.
Yeah.
But we also understand we have to kind of, let them go at the right timing and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we all know this dude's meant to be speaking.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that.
In fact, the last day, someone literally came out. Who was it? She came out and she said, you're going to be a good speaker one day, or like you're meant to be speaking. I think those are her words. Something very precise like that.
Yeah.
It was funny.
Yeah, it was a cool reflection. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it just resonated. It resonated, and I just realized that in many, even at one point I asked Victor, I said, my shadow, I like to get information and feedback from people. And even if it's constructive feedback, because I like to know different aspects of my shadow and stuff. And I asked Victor, I was like, what we're on the Wachuma. And by the way, Wachuma is like the most beautiful medicine in the world, in my opinion. It is like I feel such a deep connection to Wachuma. It's a cactus. It's this little it's like parts of the cactus have been broken down into a powder and then put into this like drink mixed with a couple other herbs or medicines, like plants, and you drink it, and it's like a 16-hour journey, but it's not like a crazy Aya journey. You take it normally during the day, and it's a very social thing, and I just love it. And like when you do that, you're just very much in tune, very empathic. So when Victor and I, there's free time, it's like your inner child comes out. So, and the way that the person that was leading the ceremony, it was the most beautiful ceremony I've ever been a part of. He was so much intention. There was an altar, and we came back like 8 or 9 times during like the 12-hour period for like different teachings and lessons, which is a funny thing in itself, right? But yeah, at one point I asked Victor, I was like, what is my shadow? What is like is there any aspect of myself that you give me feedback on? And he's like, no. What did you say?
I said no, and then I said like, maybe you can look into the fact that you asked that question.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
And that reflected back to me, because there's times I think I look for external validation, approval. Sometimes I'll go to like astrology readings, or I'll go to like a clairvoyant person. And I think sometimes a business strategist, and I'm looking for things outside of myself when I could just do whatever I read that resonates with me. It's almost like I'm giving away my power sometimes, Yeah. So that was a powerful realization in of itself.
Yeah. And one thing I'll touch on, because I can relate to that, because if some of you have heard me on the podcast before, you probably have heard me mention that I feel like I'm meant to be a writer. Aaron's a speaker. I'm the writer. But like Aaron, there was a lot of fear around that. Even though there's a strong sense of destiny with writing, and a strong just resonance with the idea, just like with you in speaking. It's always been like that. My mind can come in and sort of, just like you, go off on these tangents, because deep down, subconsciously, I'm afraid. What if I feel like I'm meant to write, but I'm not any good? Is I think what it comes down to. What if I'm not going to live up to my own expectations? So I'd say, well, I'm too busy. It's not the right time to write a book. I need to finish this first, and then I need to finish this next thing again. And it was all these different tangents and detours, but really I was just avoiding the scary aspect of putting yourself out there and living your passion like that, because it is very challenging. But I started finally doing that. It's been amazing, and I know that's going to be the exact case for Aaron. And I think you finally become aware of these detours, and now you know better. Now you know, like, it's, even if it's scary, you can commit to the speaking, and however that looks, and it's going to be badass, and you're going to have a deeper level of fulfillment. Just like anybody who out there who feels a calling to do something but feels afraid. It's okay to feel afraid, and it's common to sabotage our pursuit sometimes, but we eventually wake up to it, and then we can get back on track.
Yeah, beautifully said. Thank you. I think that's, it's the same thing for you. Like, amazing writer, your emails, and you started realizing that you could do that in a different way. You start blogging.
No, I'm
right?
blogging. I love blogging. Yeah.
Yeah, you like blogging, and you don't need a book. Like, you need to focus on that right now. Make it some big important thing.
Yes.
It'll come when it comes type thing. But it's the same reflection that you see in me for speaking. I see in you with writing. But you're just already doing it at some levels. You know what I mean? So it's cool to see. But
yes.
Yeah, it's the ceremonies were so beautiful, especially for me. Just the Wachuma ceremony was like the most beautiful thing I've ever been a part of.
Yeah. Especially that fire keeper. Remember her?
Oh, yeah. We should talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to share about that?
Sure. Yeah. This petite little beautiful Costa Rican or Colombian?
Yeah, I can't remember. I thought she was Colombian.
And she was the fire keeper. I've
Yep.
never seen a real fire keeper. I've heard the term, but she was someone who literally has dedicated her life to the fire.
Yep.
As sort of wild as it sounds, that was like what she
Is
was.
her partner's name really Agni?
I don't know. I forgot.
Agni means in Hindu, I think it means fire.
Oh, well, that would
So it's either
be fitting.
Yeah, I wonder if this is his real name or if there's like change the name or something like that.
Yeah. I don't know. That's funny.
That's
I didn't know.
interesting. Yeah. It
Yeah.
just popped in my head. Anyways, yeah.
Yeah, this woman sort of slowly walks up to light the fire, and by that time we're all feeling the wachuma.
Yeah.
We're all in our hearts. We're all very kind of expanded in our consciousness, and just can really perceive the beauty and aliveness of all of life. And she got up there and she shared this, like she slowly looked within herself for the words, and she shared the most heartfelt, genuine message of reverence and appreciation for fire. There's something so basic as fire, and she brought the whole place to tears. It was
Everyone was tearing up and
emotional, and just seeing how much this woman genuinely loved the fire, it made me realize how much I have in my life that's awesome, like children, friendships, a loving wife, soulmate, all these cool things that I don't have even a fraction of that gratitude that this woman had. And I realized if she can be that grateful, truly grateful, and feel it in her soul for fire, like, man, I'm not even, I feel like I've like not even lived my life yet. Like I've been blind to the blessings of my life. And I think a lot of us took that message of like, wow, we have so much to be grateful for. And if we just take the time to sink into the moment and look what's already there in our life, our mind, of course, wants things, but there's already stuff there.
Yeah.
And it was profound for me. I will never look at a fire the same again. I'll never look at my children, anything, without trying to remember, like, wow, I'm blessed.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well said, man. Yeah, and it was her building the fire. There was a certain way that she built the fire. There was a ceremony, and then there was sacred geometry in the middle that a couple of the people with the leader, the guy that was leading the ceremony, he's like a living cactus.
Yeah.
This guy like lives, eats, breathes wachuma, and he's like one of my favorite people. He's amazing. And he there's like this sacred geometry in the middle where you don't walk. There's like these perfectly laid rocks. And then there's sacred geometry in the middle. There's this like mandala in the middle. There's a certain geometry, and there's crystals. And you're not allowed to walk in that middle section. And then there's the shaman with 3 of the helpers, and the musicians and the fire keeper. And then there's all of us on these pillows all the way around. And then there's a fire at the very end. And she was building the fire, and there's a certain way she builds it. It's like an art. And there's so much emotion that so many people were crying, and she was talking about what fire brings us, the symbol of fire, and how it can create life, and how it transmutes, how it dances, how free it is. And the way she worded it, though, to me was like very much reminiscent of like self-worth, and that we always have to be building the fire. Like literally, I was realizing this like even after her talk, but like there's literally a full-time fucking position for starting and keeping the fire. Her job, the whole entire 12 to 14 hours, was keeping that fire lit.
Yeah.
And that fire was a symbol. We were using that fire all day to let go of intentions, to put tobacco in the fire, to let go of things. And it was so magical. But we all have an inner fire that we don't necessarily feed. We forget to feed. And when we forget to feed the fire starts to burn out, it starts to become more dim, and we wonder why we don't have passion in our life. But it's because we may not be feeding our own fire or our own self-worth. And the fact that was a full-time position, a full-time thing that she was doing, and there was so much connection and meaning to it, was beautiful. But it just made me realize that, like, even in our own lives, like, that fire is inside of our hearts. That fire is inside our eyes. You can see that fire, and you can see sometimes a little bit more light in certain people's lives, I think, that are more in their passion or more lit up. But if you nurture your fire and you nurture your self-worth, and you go after what you're passionate about, or you meditate, you clear resistance, like these are all ways of amplifying that inner fire.
Yeah.
And that the attention to detail, because all day long she had to go back and feed the fire. It made me realize, like, how are we feeding the fire in our own life?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it was like a powerful realization for me.
Yeah.
You know.
When you feed that fire, you're free, you're powerful, you dance like the fire, and you're just living life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was also, for me, I was like laughing. When you do Wachuma, you become like a little kid. But you also can have these really profound insights. So in the very beginning, you and I were having like this deep, when we were first allowed to like talk, because the first 2 hours were noble silence. While the medicine is coming on, everyone finds a spot.
Yeah.
Somewhere on the property. It could be kind of spaced out, and you don't talk or anything. So I laid in the sun, and it was like 2 hours long. And then eventually he had this whistle, like I forget what it was, but then everyone comes. And anytime you hear it, we cannot start until every single person comes back. So we'd have to find people. Sometimes it'd take us 10, 20 minutes to find somebody that was like off doing something, you know. And then we would all come back, and then we would do like a teaching, and the teachings were profound. Yeah. We talked about the 5 laws of creation.
Yeah. And
we'll talk about that in a minute. But one thing that I thought was so funny is like we got into this deep talk. We got into this deep talk where we were talking about meaning and stuff like that, and it was so funny to me because like everything in life has no built-in meaning other than the meaning we give it. And at different states, when you're in this expanded states of consciousness, when you do Wachuma, and we all have access to that whenever, but I just realized that that in that state of consciousness, like we are all one. All of us are connected, and everything is a reflection of the one. So anything in our life that's a reflection, the epiphany, not the epiphany, but just the realization that I thought was kind of funny, because you get into a funny, playful state when you're on Wachuma, is deep down, the beautiful woman that was like talking about fire and getting emotional, and everyone else is crying about this fire. It's like at the deepest levels, she's looking at another aspect of her, which is the fire, crying about how beautiful the fire is. And then we're all crying about that when everyone else is also us.
Yeah.
And it made me realize how much meaning and symbols there are in our reality, because the reason the fire has so much meaning is because of the meaning that it reflects back to us about ourselves, because the fire is us and everyone else is us. Everyone's a reflection of us. And what we love in something else is the same thing that is already within us. It's just reflecting back something to us.
Yes.
So it was like so obvious to me and so kind of comical that that the way that we look at symbols and meaning and like the brands you like because of the symbol and the meaning it reflects back to you. The medicine, even like Patty has such a reverence and such a connection to the medicine of Victor's wife. She lives and eats and breathes plants.
Yeah.
And she has such a connection to it. And deep down at the deepest levels, the plants are her. And she feels such a connection to it because the plants literally are her, and they exist within us. And in this reality, this dream reality that's an illusion, it's like it's all different aspects of the same thing. But that was like an insight that I had that was just almost comical and funny. And we're all walking around talking to each other, and it's reflecting things back, but we're really talking to other aspects of us.
Yes.
And the people we really resonate with are the people that just kind of like we really identify with.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of a funny thing, but it makes us realize that that's why everything is a reflection. The people we hate, the people we love, it's just reflecting back us.
Yeah,
and that's why what you put out is what you get back.
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about the 5 laws?
Yeah. So I bet a decent amount of the people listening know what the 5 laws are.
Yeah.
But the shaman, the Wachumero, the main thing, the foundation of the teachings were the 5 laws. And he would blow the whistle. We'd all come from the woodworks and gather.
Yep.
And then he would go over one of the laws. And then we would go and we'd sort of do something with it,
with
some
the
kind
theme.
of ritual. We'd lead prayers for the fire and whatnot, and then we'd go off and we'd have free time, and we'd come back and he'd go over the second law. And like the 5 laws turned out to be in the end
not yet.
Okay, what do you? Okay.
Okay, I guess we give it away.
You can give it away. I know you wanted to.
No, you can give it away. The thing was I was gonna. I guess yeah. We
do you want to actually go over the 5 laws? Is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah.
So the first law is I am, or I exist.
Yep.
And that's sort of a simple, obvious thing, but when you really look at that, it's like, I am, it is kind of profound, especially in the
these are the
medicine.
5 laws as well. You can't change. These are like 5 laws. These are
theories.
This is the idea. These aren't theories. These aren't cool ideas. Like, these are 5 laws that exist.
Yeah. That
we all have a part of. And the first one is I am, which means I exist. If you exist, your energy. You cannot change that. You will exist. Energy exists. It will always exist. It may change its form, but you exist. That is it. Like it just is what it is. I
Yeah.
am, and anything you put after I am, you become. So it's important to watch your words. You know.
Yeah.
But it's just like the fundamental existence. If you were non-existence, you wouldn't exist. Like it just it's a funny concept and paradox, but it's important.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of like the enlightened masters, when they come down to that, the foundational truth of reality, it is I am.
Yeah.
There's
I am.
I am that I am.
Yep. And you can just meditate on that.
You can
get profound insights like I am.
Yeah. And then the second one is
the one is
the one is all,
one
and all
is
is the one.
Yep, the one is the all is the one. If you're looking at a bowl of pearls and you get really close to one pearl, if you get close enough, you'll then see all the other pearls in it.
Reflected in it,
Reflected, yeah. And it's kind of the same thing. What we love in someone else is reflecting something back to ourselves.
Yes.
It's something we identify with, you know. It could be culture, it could be people, it could be, you know, situations, events.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the second one, and we had a little exercise for that.
Yeah, what was
the third one is what you put out is what you get back.
Yes.
What you put out is what you get back. And karma. What you put out is what you get back. It's kind of like karma. In a way, so.
You know, I'll share on that real quick, because there's another medicine that they passed around called Mambay.
Yep.
And Mambay, me and Aaron have done before. We actually enjoy it quite a bit, and it's made from the coca plant. But it's not like we're doing drugs. It's like the sacred version of the coca plant. But there are mild stimulating effects that can lead to really clear thinking and good conversations. But there's a person there who wanted to share something because he kind of understands how this plant works. It can kind of give you kind of a lot of thoughts. And he says there's a tendency to kind of have like vomit of the mouth, where you just start spewing out sort of unconsciously all the different things racing through your head, putting out there things that are not really of meaning. But he says that whenever he does that, he likes to, whenever he has the Mambay in his mouth, he likes to associate that with taking a moment to think before he speaks, and making sure everything he says is sweet, everything is from the heart, and just making sure every word you speak is just in alignment, kind of like the four agreements, being impeccable with your word. And that was a big profound insight to me, going along with that law. What you put out is what you get back, because sometimes I do get kind of ungrounded and just start talking unconsciously. But it really made me start to watch my words and make sure I don't say negative things unnecessarily about somebody else or just about life, and really just it's hard to recapture how profound it was at the time now that we're down from medicine. But that was a big lesson for me, to really watch my words.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking I was trying to do the same thing.
We both were.
We were both
That's why we had that
talking,
deep
but-
conversation, because we
Yeah,
both
because
had just heard that.
Yep. It was after that, because then we were like, oh, it was obvious. We were very careful
Yes.
of our words, more careful than usual. So that's the third law. The fourth law is that the past and the future all exist now. And we can never be in the past. We can never be in the future. We're only in this moment now. Now, the experience of time is real, but time is an illusion.
Yeah.
It all exists here and now. So it's an interesting thing, because as we change now, I believe we also change the parts of our past we connect to, and we change the potential futures we could experience.
Yeah.
But the only place that change can happen and transformation happens is now.
Yeah.
So that
he talked about Einstein, the theory of relativity.
Yeah.
He talked about how, like, the day when we were on the Wachuma, it was like a 18-hour day or something.
Fucking flew by.
It flew by.
It was crazy.
It was crazy.
So good.
Yeah. And then he said, imagine if you were sitting in a jail cell that whole time. How long would that seem? He got kind of as an example of how time is just an experience. It's a matter of perspective.
Yeah.
It's flexible. It's not real.
It's malleable. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a powerful insight as well. And then every time we would do, we'd go to the altar, there'd be different activities sometimes we would do.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was like this amazing cacao
Yeah.
drink that this guy, oh man, it was phenomenal. And we had like mild snacks throughout the day. You're not really that hungry when you do it though.
Yes,
And then at
not.
the end, it's like, it's funny. He makes a funny statement. He's like, I'm telling you right now, you're going to go over to the thing over there. There's some fruit. You're going to take a bite of a pineapple. It's going to be the best pineapple you ever put in your mouth. And you're going to want more pineapple. And it's so true, because when you're on Wachuma, it's like better than when I used to smoke a lot of cannabis back in the day. I'd love to go eat.
Yeah.
This is like a different level of appreciation and sweetness. And it's like, it's like, it's incredible.
Yes.
And then, so so that was it. And then the fifth law is
nothing changes except the four. Everything changes except the four laws. That's what it was.
Yeah. So everything changes. If you're trying to hold on to things, you have attachments. That's when the resistance comes in our life.
Yeah.
So then after we're sitting there, I started realizing, I was like busting at the seams, sort of trying to tell. Once he said that everything changes except for the four laws,
yeah,
I knew where this source came from.
Right.
That's when it popped to me, and I was like, wanted to tell Victor. I was like, I'll tell you in a minute.
I knew what he was thinking.
And then he goes, these teachings came from a being from Esasani, named Bashar.
Yeah.
And in that moment, we're like, what the fuck? We're like losing our minds because we are such we
Bashar
love
heads.
such Bashar heads. Have studied so much of his teachings. He's been around for over 30 years. And the way that these shaman kind of fell into our lap was so synchronous, but how much alignment was there that his whole teachings of his Wachuma was the 5 laws of creation, which are connected to Bashar, who's like our favorite teacher, who a lot of our audience already knew of Bashar. It was just such a profound realization and alignment that it was like, it was so perfect, and yesterday the ceremony was over on Saturday. Today's Monday, Sunday. We ended up hanging out with the Wachumero.
Yes.
And he's an amazing guy, and it was just, there's so much alignment, and we plan on doing more of these in some level.
Yes.
So one thing I'll do is I'm gonna put an email box below so that they can put a coming soon thing.
Cool.
That you guys can put an email below. When we do these retreats, they are normally 2 or 3 nights. They're normally going to be in like Costa Rica or something like that.
Yep.
And the people that are the shaman are literally been doing it 20 years, some of them. It's so much sacredness and comfort and safety that you feel. If you're feeling called to it, put your email. You go to aarondoughty.com, because I know this is on the podcast as well. aarondoughty.com / Costa Rica. Yeah. aarondoughty.com / Costa Rica.
That's perfect, bro. Yeah.
How about that? I'm trying to think of something easy for people to, but, or you could just click the link below if this is on the second YouTube channel, and you can put in your email address if you want to be notified for the next time we launch one, because they go out quick. We had over 100 applications, and we could only pick 20. But if you want to be, updated or something like that, you can put your email there. Go to aarondoughty.com / Costa Rica, and we'll, you can put in your email because there'll be more of these. But I imagine some people may want to come to something like this if you guys do, if that resonates with you, if you're feeling called to do the plant medicine. And it's normally a couple nights of ayahuasca and then a night or a day of wachuma.
Yeah, it feels like we're meant to do the way it all turned out for us. It's like there's a calling to do these for people. Yeah, and we all kind of feel it.
And after that, and the other last thing I want to say about the Wachuma Day is, Wachuma Day, a lot of walls broke down for me. I had a lot of walls up when I meet certain people, like certain people that know me, but I don't know them. Yeah. And the last day, those heart walls just went away, and I just felt connected to everybody. Yes. So open, so free, and it made me realize that, there is. After the first day, I was thinking, man, I'm supposed to be doing my own frame. You know what I mean? Like, this is Victor and Patty's frame. But then after going through the experience, I see why they do what they do. I see why they have such a calling to do it, because there's times it can be a little bit draining, like facilitating a whole experience, making sure everyone's getting fed, making sure everything's going right, like being in ceremony, like it's a lot of energy. Yeah. But I realize what it's like. It is very much worth it, and there are definitely ways I still want to be involved, and I feel more connected to the medicine than ever. Like whether it's Aya or Wachuma, I feel so connected to it that I also want to help connect other people to it, and if they feel resonant to it, sure, in a very sacred way, not like just everybody goes do. We don't recommend that at all.
It's not for everybody.
It's not for everybody, but it's a very cool thing. So, anyways, I think that we shared quite a bit today.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, there's many other things, but maybe for another time.
Facets. Yeah. So we hope you guys enjoyed. Where can people find more of you?
You can go just find me on Instagram at Victor Oddo, ODDO.
ODDO, Victor Oddo. You can find him there. We'll probably do follow-up podcasts somehow to some of this kind of information. Victor's on all the time, though, so you guys are used to, seeing Victor. But, yeah, it was an amazing, profound weekend that we've had. A lot of these insights. besides the insights of like letting go of control,
Yeah,
surrendering,
so many.
trust. Those are all the usual ayahuasca lessons.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we look forward to doing this again, and we hope that many of you listening to this can join. And if you want to put in your email, we'll send you updates as to when, and it'll probably be maybe more, maybe not a year from now in November. Maybe it's much before that. You know, I think it
Yeah.
might be. I have a feeling.
Me too.
We're making a lot of connections down here, which is really cool. With
Yes.
these people, so that's an opportunity. So, anyways, thank you for coming on, bro.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. A lot of the people who listen to you, there's some overlap there. So
Yeah.
it's always an honor to be on your channel. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Of course. Yeah, we love having you on, man. So, anyways, we appreciate you guys for joining us today, and we hope you guys have a great day. And as always, much love.
Much love.